a child of Somali immigrants, and I'm the child of Honduran immigrants.
It's going to be a great show. It's going to be fun. We're just going to talk about random stuff that's relevant to growing up in the U.S. as an immigrant. So, join us. You might laugh, you might roll your eyes, or you might tune us out. I don't know.
It's switch over with that. I think you're out of it.
All right.
Yeah, this is like pretty close quarter. I'm used. And welcome to the second ever episode of You're So Well Spoken.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I'm glowing in these lights.
Yeah, man.
It is. You got like 50 light. I feel like I'm in a studio.
You are in the studio, absolutely.
All right.
Might not be the most professional, but we got some serious equipment in here.
Okay, all right.
So this is the second episode. Last episode was just kind of random. We were just kind of introducing the concept of the show. This one's a little bit more targeted, a little more focused. Yeah. We're talking about the United States of America.
God bless America.
And we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about our reactions or emotions or kind of what that means to us, right?
Or you can get started.
I'll start. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, I heard some stand-up comedian. I don't even know who. It was a black stand-up comedian, and he pointed out something that was for the first time I had never heard put in this way.
Okay.
And he just said, "Hey, as Black Americans, like, it's going to be very rare for you to see someone with like brandishing the American flag in the same way as a patriotic white person would, even if they love their country." They said it in a funny way. I'm not, but he just said like our experience is different, right? Like the country hasn't really loved us the same way, and so the love that we have for it it's a little bit more guarded, right? And when he put it that way, I was just like, well, first of all, he said it in a funny way, some joke, but I was like, wow, like, that's interesting, because the American flag doesn't mean the same thing to me as...
It terrifies me. I'm always doing the math. Like, how many American flags equate to one Confederate flag? Whenever I'm driving through any type of area. We just had this a couple of weeks ago.
Go ahead. When we actually saw the Confederate flags?
Yeah. So we were going down south. Those of you who listen to our other podcast know that Alex and I are always hunting for properties and things like that, because, we got to be good immigrants and make money and retire and take care of 50 billion people. So heading down south is always challenging. I remember the first time you went, Alex just called me out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, stay on the phone with me. I don't know where I am, but I'm seeing way too many Confederate flags and I'm getting spotty reception. If anything happens to me, you're the last person to know where I am."
Take care of my wife and kids. It's a little scary.
Yeah.
Again, nothing's ever happened to me, but you hear stories, and I think it's even more than that. It's just like you hear about like the cultural divide of like some people get into remote, isolated areas, and that makes us more scared. And some people come to the city and they're like, "Oh, it's scary, and it's the big city, and that's the place where I'm going to get hurt."
Sure, I'd rather be in the city.
Yeah, so that's just one of those cultural divide things, which I understand to some degree.
It's like, you can't hide a body in an apartment building. Woods? They never find you in the woods.
So it's a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah.
But I think, so that just comment got me thinking about it, and I think it's a good place to start for our show because it's about this dual culture that we have, right? Like, and I think that's where our experiences are pretty different, right? Like my family, we go back to Honduras all the time. I'm going like maybe once a year at least, sometimes more than that. So I still have a pretty strong connection to Honduras. I have a lot of family there. We see them a lot. And I don't think that's been your experience. You guys came and like burned the boats. You keep in touch a lot. Your parents keep in touch a lot.
Yeah, they called all the time.
But they never really traveled back very much.
Well, they did. They did one right before the pandemic. So,
but that was like the first time in like...
Well, that's because they're workaholics. Like my parents had like that. So part of the other immigrant experience is the whole concept of like, I have to work. I constantly work. Like the work ethic is ridiculous. It's over the top. Maybe I slightly rebel against it now, but in my old age. But like my parents at the time, had this viewpoint. They used to work for the school district, which means you had your summers off, but they would still even work during the summers because like, I can't take time off. I get fired. I was like, you have vacation. They're like, I can't take vacation. I got fired. Like even now, whenever I have leave of any type of the work, it's like, why are you playing with your job? So they never took any vacation. They finally retired in 2018. And then in 2019, they took their first vacation and they went back home for the first time in 30 plus years. I didn't go with them. I just went halfway. I took them to Dubai, stayed for like a couple of weeks in Dubai with them, and then I told them, hop on the next flight. You guys head on that way. I'll head back home. Good luck. Go with God. Peace. I'm going to go enjoy my couple of months of freedom. Also, because I knew the second I arrived, everybody would just like be clinging, be like, hey, eligible bachelor, where's your wife? You don't have a wife? Come here. Trying to marry me off. It's like what is it then? Mulan? I'm not a oh no, it was an Aladdin, Princess Jasmine. I'm not a prize to be won.
That's you? Oh yeah. You're a prize, buddy.
Oh,
you are a prize to be won.
I appreciate you. But that was their first time ever going back home, and you know I haven't been since I was a kid.
So tell me, I guess first let's talk about the other country, right? Like so. For me, one of the little anecdotes that I always remember, and we laugh about it, is beans. Beans are like fundamental to our diet. And so I was a little kid. I might have been like 5, 6 years old.
Such a stereotype.
Yeah. They call us beaners for a reason, right? Like, I guess.
Is that a slur?
Yes, I think it is.
Don't cancel us.
I don't think it's so bad. Like beans. We actually love beans. But...
Let's move on.
Okay, so we were eating beans, but at this point I remember that it made me thirsty because it's kind of salty and stuff, and so I just didn't want to, because my mom was also limiting my juice intake, so she's like, don't drink all your juice because then you'll be full and you won't eat your meal. But I wanted to because it made me thirsty, and so she's like, well, you know, and I just didn't want any more beans because it was going to be, and at the end, the famous phrase is, she said, well, if you don't eat your beans, then you're not a real Honduran. Ooh. And that's where, like, I think I remember a little bit of that, well, I do want to be Honduran. I want to be more Honduran. It's not my fault. Like, I don't know. Like, and it's something that I think a real Honduran would never even question, right? Like, you grew up in Honduras, you're Honduran, you take that for granted. You're in the majority. Mm. Whereas here, growing up in the minority, not being American enough, but also not being Honduran enough is like, that's the first memory I have of that. And so that's just my little anecdote. But so I do always want to be more Honduran, and I never feel less Honduran than when I'm in Honduras. So I go back pretty often, and it's very obvious.
Because you're an Arab. We've established this.
No, that's when I feel most American.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's like all these cultural differences, and I'm like, man, like America's so awesome, like it's so good. Like, first of all, I never call it America. I call it the United States of America or the United States.
That's because of your wife.
No, this is something that my family taught me. Like,
really?
Because Honduras is part of America, right? Like the continent of America.
Yeah, but you never brought it up until Flor started getting pissed about it.
Well, she gets upset about it, but like, I remember one time before I ever met Flor, like in what country was I? I was in Nicaragua. And we just met like an American family on like a tour bus to the beach somewhere. And there was a guy, like a younger guy, and I was with like a young crowd of people too.
Wait, hold on. Just before you get into the story. Context. So the reason why I'm saying that is his wife always gets pissed whenever anyone refers to the U.S. as America and not any other part of Latin America. Because she's like, Central and South America are America too. And then she gets into all in her feelings about this. I don't know why she has this particular hang-up, but she does. She gets really animated. But back to your story.
And my mom, I remember her telling me that too when I was little too. She's like, why? Why did they say that? They're leaving us out.
I wouldn't even have thought about it, honestly.
Yeah, because you're not from America. Your family's from...
You're trying to say I'm not American?
That's another point I want to get to. But anyways, this guy, we asked him where he asked us where I was from. I was like, yeah, I'm Honduran, but you know, I live in the DC area. Because I knew what he was getting at. Yeah. Where are you from? It's like, so I told him the answer that he wanted to hear, and then I asked him where he's from, And because I was from the DC area, I was expecting an answer of like Florida, or wherever, you know?
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm from America. And there's something
What a
about the way...
douchebag.
Why is it douchey?
Because that's the douchiest response ever.
It was, and it was offensive.
Yeah.
I
Like,
was
he called you not American by saying that.
Oh, that's... Okay. I just knew that when he said it, I was like, this guy sucks. I'm not going to talk to him anymore. And then we rode another 20 minutes, and I was like, that guy sucks. I couldn't put my finger on why he made my skin crawl.
Yeah. He called you an other.
Oh, that's
you ain't American, he's American.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for interpreting that for me.
I'm great at interpreting racism. That's what I do.
Yeah, sometimes you do need, like, just, there's something, like, you know, there's vague racism like that. I think that's not, like, he was calling me a beaner or something, right? But he was just, there's something about it I didn't like. I couldn't put my finger on it. Thanks.
I get more overt racism.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you? The random Korean girl?
No.
So, I was, so in DC area, everyone commutes into the city for work. So I used to take the subway, the metro on a daily basis going into work. And, you always see the same group of people on the platform all the time. And, my culture, we're very sociable people. We always talk a lot and we always say hi to everybody. You got to get to know your community, so to speak, or whatever. Like my dad is like the king of the neighborhood. So I get there early this one morning and I see it's just me and this random girl on the platform. I've seen her like all the time on there. So just out of politeness, because, considering I've seen you every day for the last 2 years, I'll be polite and be like, it's just the two of us. I'll be like, hey, good morning. How you doing? And her first immediate response to me was, I don't date black men. I'm like, I didn't even ask. I just said good morning just to be polite.
Wow. Okay, so why is that? Well, yeah, that's overt.
Overt racism.
There's no analysis there. But there's also an incredible amount of arrogance there. That is, ugh.
Yeah, well.
We can get into some episodes about gender stuff too, but we're that's not this one. That's
a different day.
Yeah. So we got America, we got feelings, we got. Tell me about times when you felt less American, or like where you wanted to be more American.
I don't know if I ever wanted to be more American. Just because my dad would always equate with being American like as being arrogant and bad behavior and things like that. It's like, oh, you've become so Americanized now. You don't respect our values and you don't respect your parents and blah, blah, blah. You're just acting out, yada, yada, yada. So like in our household, being called American was just like meaning you're a bad kid.
And probably a lot of that too is related to your religion too, right? Like,
yeah, no, but it was more cultural, just in terms of just.
Oh, even as a child too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because like the one thing I'm thinking of that we can think of as American that is alcohol, right? That's a very American thing. People do it for fun.
More than American, I mean, it's worldwide.
It is worldwide.
Yeah,
it is worldwide. You're
yeah.
right.
For my parents, it was more in terms of behavior. Like if you were like, being disrespectful or rude or whatnot as a kid, it's like, oh, you don't respect your parents anymore? You're becoming Americanized? Because, like you see all those like TV shows where it's like kids like, shut up, mom, and blah, 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 blah. And like, F you, dad. That's what they equated with being Americanized as a child. So for me, I was like, I don't want to be Americanized. Like those are the times I was like, no, I'm respectful. Now, like I lecture them half the time, so they're like rolling their eyes at like so. My dad, his favorite line is like, biggest mistake I made was bringing you into this country. It made you arrogant. Arrogant. I was like, really? You sent me to school, I learned things, and I'm applying the things I learned. And I'm telling you when you're wrong. Now I'm arrogant.
Very interesting. Okay,
yeah.
So, what else is there to talk about the United States? Okay, so times where... What about you in terms of, like, do you have any identity... What's the word? Insecurity, I guess, about being Somali enough?
Yeah, sometimes. It depends. Like, if I'm around Somalis around my age, I'm fine. When I'm around older Somalis, it gets a little bit more tough. Just because, they're, like, more culturally... Like, 'cause most of the young people, they're like us, You can
Here,
relate.
yeah.
Yeah. No, not even here. Even the ones like abroad, they all kind of, everybody's kind of like acclimated and grew up with like, the distributed American culture that's like set on TV and everything. So you can kind of relate on many aspects of things. Older people like my father's generation, my mom's generation, a little bit of like a barrier sometimes. They're like real old school. So that can be a little bit challenging at times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I think.
And I don't even really know what to put my finger on it, but it's just something that's just like, it's a little bit of a struggle to relate.
Well, I guess the other thing that we could talk about is the idea of, because I was telling a friend about this show, and one suggestion that she had for the name is, where are you really from? So instead of you're so well spoken, the question could be, where are you really from?
Nah, I like the well spoken better.
I like the well spoken because it's your actual story.
Yeah.
But that's a valid question to talk about, because I found that people fit into, maybe, I don't know if there's a spectrum, I guess, but there's like people who will say, oh, where are you from? And let's say someone's clearly Asian, right? You look at them, you have roots somewhere in that continent, and they ask, where are you from? You could answer one way. You could say, oh, I'm from Springfield, Virginia, and just
That's kind of dickish, because you know what people are actually asking you. I hate when people do that. Like,
but it's valid, right? Like it is an attempt to make you not American also, right? Hey, where are you from? Like when you or me ask it, I think there's a certain more, it's a little less uncomfortable because we're also other, right?
yeah, but I mean, like, I had that happen in Brazil one time. Because, like, in Brazil, so they have this huge Japanese population. I think it's, like, the biggest outside of Japan. And there was an Asian girl there one time, and I was, like, chit-chatting with her. I was doing, like, a study abroad, and I was chit-chatting with her, and I was like, yeah, you're cool. Where are you from? Where's your family from? And she looked at me dead ass in my eyes, and she was just like, here, Brazil. I was like, yeah, but, I mean, originally, where did your ancestors or whoever immigrate from? She's like, we are Brazilian. I was like, why are you making this difficult? I'm trying to connect with you on some other level beyond just the fact that I get you're Brazilian. I didn't understand. I don't speak Portuguese. You clearly speak Portuguese. I know you're Brazilian, but I also know you have some other aspect to you as well. I'm not putting you down because of that. I'm actually interested. So I hate it when people get defensive about it in that context.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very valid point. Like for people to really get at what you're trying to get at, right? If it's said in a way that's made to try to make you other, to try to exclude you from being American, then that's bad. If it's made as an attempt, if the question is put out as an attempt to connect, then it is a little bit to be like, no, I'm not having that conversation with you. And they're like, all right, well.
And you can tell when one or the other is having. I mean, like the America guy, he clearly was trying to like separate. But like, if somebody else, like, if I asked you, that's completely different. I'm like, oh, I'm really interested. Where's your family, your history, this, that, and the other?
Yeah.
Trying to find some commonality of my experience with your experience.
Exactly. Okay, so then what if you are a middle-aged white male and you still want to ask that question? I think it's going to be interpreted a little bit differently, right?
I mean, it depends on how you present the question. Like, for example, if we had somebody like Gabe, for example, it's like one of our white friends. That sounds terrible.
That does sound
one
really
of
bad.
Our white friends.
He's
a friend of ours that happens to be white as well. But like, if somebody like him came up and asked, he was like, "Oh, hey, where are you from?" Like the way he presents himself and the way he talks to you, he actually cares.
Yeah.
And like, there's nothing snooty about him. Well, he can be snooty sometimes, but it's like about like music and things like that. But
love you, Gabe.
Yeah, adore you, man. But it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Like the root of like what is the point of this conversation? And if it's an attempt to connect, then it is, take it that way. And and we can. I mean, I never do that anyway because I just say I'm Honduran and I grew up here my whole life. I'm both, and more here, right? When people ask me that in Honduras, again, that's where I'm very American. I get super patriotic. And I'm like, God bless America. And there's like real cultural things that I actually are emphasized as like why this country is good.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I'll say, like I'll point out that culturally I really, yeah, it's that Hondurans are very hard on failure, right? So you try something, it doesn't work out. If you step up and try to be a leader, oof, you're going to get your head cut off. There's bad consequences. Literally. People are going to hate you. They're going to talk bad about you if things don't go well. And so it's really a place that putting your neck out and taking a risk is not rewarded.
Mm-hmm. Like that time when a hitman came after you?
Yeah.
That's a different story. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You like the little teasers sometimes putting in here?
I remember like 8th grade math. There was a word to describe that.
What is it?
I don't remember.
I just said teaser.
Teaser, yeah. It's
teaser.
A synonym.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll get to your hitman story one day. Not that he was a hitman. He had a hitman against him.
I could have called the hit.
Let's not put that out there, okay?
I didn't. But anyways, in the United States, you know, especially as someone who is an entrepreneur, I'm like trying to take risks. I'm trying to do things. The fact that, hey, like failure isn't that bad. Like people try things, they fail, they learn from it, they improve, they keep trying, they adjust, and that's how you eventually get to the top of the mountain. And we learned that a lot on the other show where we had all these people who, I mean, the one that really comes to mind is the guy who became financially free twice. Oh yeah. You know, he was working his 9 to 5, struggling to make ends meet.
He made it big.
He started a business, climbed to the top, lost it all, got another job, was grinding 9 to 5 again, and rebuilt another business a few years later and was able to become a millionaire twice, which is, I think, you know, the main takeaway is, first of all, take risks, failing is okay, but then once you kind of learn that set of things, I think it's...
That skill set becomes ingrained.
Yeah. So there's times when I'm like, man, I love this country because of stuff like that.
Yeah, and the opportunities are great.
Yeah.
Fun. Like back home, it's all about like really well-established connections. Like, you know, we've been able to meet all sorts of people, all walks of life, like at high levels, low levels, but like especially in terms of like our business success, it's been because we've been able to connect with people that were at high levels that back home that we would never have access to, at least if we had grown up there. I think now we probably would because we're considered as rich foreigners. But had we been born and raised back home, we would just be stuck within our immediate circle.
Yeah.
And that's one great thing about being here and, you know, being in the U.S., being in America. Opportunities, they exist. It's hard. It's not easy to get those opportunities, particularly also when you're a minority sometimes, because, again, there is also social networks that are established that you got to work and fight your way into. Because, like, you looked at all the people that we've dealt with, I mean, predominantly it tends to be white. Like, at least in the business context.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually something that we struggled with, is that we saw that trend. Is like, you know, it's great. Like, a lot of the guests that we had, we really connected well with them and everything, but we just saw that trend as like, oh, well, there's not that many examples, especially from the person who was sourcing a lot of the guests for the show.
We're like, get us some minorities in the mix
like
too.
We'd love to highlight some other examples of
success.
Minority people who've made it. And
we did get that one guy.
There's a good group.
No, the bank robber. Yeah, we got one individual who apparently robbed a bank, went to jail, became a pastor, did all sorts of crazy things, jumped out of planes. His life story actually read like the script from Ocean's 11. So we're not quite sure. Apparently, Jamie Foxx was talking to him about creating a movie. It was a lot.
It was a lot, and you know, it was just a fun story. I don't know what to take.
It was
from
Ocean's 11. It was literally the entire script of Ocean's 11.
And by the way,
he even had a midget in a box.
This is the second episode, dude. Come on.
That's what you're saying. It was just a little person.
All right.
America. What are we talking about?
What we like about it. I think the other thing that comes out of it for me is that, again, kind of comparing when I've traveled over there, is that in Honduras, the sense of egalitarianism, even if it's in the U.S., I believe it's aspirational, right? Like it's something we want to get to.
I'm sorry.
Many of us.
I'm still just imagining the little person stuffed into a
Just stop. Just stop. We're going to edit this whole thing out.
What? Go ahead. Do the inspirational thing. You're on a roll. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The point is, like,
inspirationalism.
Honduras, I found that a lot of people don't have that egalitarian thing. There's definitely a caste system that's a lot more firm. And so the idea of someone from the bottom coming to the top is a rare thing to see. Whereas here, it's kind of one of the most fundamental things that we're taught as a value, right? That people want that to happen. It might not always be the reality, but at least so for me, I think that's the thing that I love about the United States is that it's this aspirational thing that is good ideas. Like, and then in reality, it's not always there. But I think everyone, or for the most part, a lot of people believe in a lot of that.
Sometimes I think a little too much, though.
Go on.
I mean, you look at so the class divide in the U.S., for example. We're going to get real political right now.
Oh, shoot. Focus.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, all right. So we're going to get real political right now. So, you like my political pose?
I like how you get quiet.
Yes. Set the tone. I think a big issue a lot of times in the U.S. in terms of even like the way people view politics and whatnot is they sometimes take the aspirational aspects too far. Like everyone in their mind thinks, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire one day. And that's great. It's great to think that. But it's hard. I mean, we've been trying for a while now, and we're on our way there, but it's a struggle.
And there's just a million ways to go wrong.
Right. But a big part of it also is luck. I mean, we've been very, knock on wood, fortunate and lucky. So to say that opportunities are available for everyone is not necessarily true. You have to be in the right place, the right time, and meet the right people who are willing to take the chance to either help you, work with you, teach you, and guide you and show you the ropes. Because there's a whole formula to this thing, and you need somebody to plug you in, not only with the knowledge, but with the resources and the connections to implement that. Because if you have any part of that component, you're still not going to succeed. You need all of it together. Yeah. So the American aspirationalism, I think, is a little bit over sensationalized, is the word, I guess, sometimes. Like, not everybody can make it. I mean, it's a reality.
What I meant in aspiration, it wasn't even an economic. I meant, like, there is an egalitarianism, right? Like, you can have a millionaire. Well, in reality, we know that there is divides, right?
Yeah.
There's justice for some and injustice for others.
Yeah, it's a clear
There's a lot
divide.
of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like, if you just, any two random people meet, there's a certain level of you can just talk to them, not with, like, oh, you know, like, and I think I've seen that in Honduras where, like, I remember the phrasing was, when you translate it, but even in Spanish, it came across weird. Yeah. There was someone who was a mechanic, and he really wanted to connect with me as friends, and he said, wow, it's impressive how humble you are, despite what you are. And I was like, what I am?
What does that mean?
It meant
like rich,
a rich foreigner, like upper class.
Yeah.
Like, so despite the fact that I'm upper class, I'm humble, and it's not that I am it's that I am upper class. Like, it was, again, those are different words in Spanish, but like to like have stuff as opposed to I just am, right? Like, and that was, again, that caste system that he was kind of thrown off. He's like, this guy is somebody, but he treats me like I'm somebody because he is somebody, right? But that's the American in me. I think he's used to being treated as not
Not
somebody.
somebody.
By,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the caste system kind of concept is a lot more overt in other countries overseas. I mean, even in Somalia, I have to catch my mom sometimes because she gets into like this, like, oh, hoity-toity, blah blah blah. I'm like, lady, we're not. Relax. She really gets into her like upper class rich lady kind of mindset, which we're not at all. You know, like we grew up working class. She was juggling like her and my dad each 3 jobs. You know, all this other stuff, but in her mind, she's a rich lady. You seen her pictures from Dubai, where she was like, "Take a picture of me."
the pose. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, I want the bees to see how I'm living." But so there is a lot more overtness overseas in terms of the classism than there is here in the U.S. But I do think that that same level of kind of mentality does exist here. It's just subconscious.
Yeah, it's a little under
Yeah.
the surface.
Yeah.
Where I mean, you told some really powerful stories about your experience at law school, where
Oh, yeah.
opportunities were just.
Yeah, it was trickle
and-
down.
I mean, I think there was one I remember where you told that like the professor
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of gave someone like a good luck, and then turned around. And
Yeah, it
like,
was me.
You. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, she gave me the good luck. So the story is that it was me and a classmate. The classmate came from awesome girl. She was super sweet. She came from a very wealthy, white family. She was a wonderful person. And we had a professor, and it was towards the end of our first year of law school, and we're all struggling. It's the most traumatizing year of my existence, of anyone's existence, and it culminates with everybody getting their first college or post-college, not post-college, post-law school big internship at these big law firms where you can finally start making big money for the summer. And it's like the lottery trying to find these internships. And I was still looking for something, and this girl hadn't even bothered looking for anything because she's like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to find anything. My first year was rough, she was thinking. So she's like, yeah, nobody's going to hire me, so I'm not going to bother. So her plan was just to go home and just kind of relax and detox from a horrible year. Our professor comes up to us, and she's like, oh, hey. And somehow she knew of her family or something. And then she's like, so what are you doing this summer? And she's like, nothing. She's like, you don't have an internship? And she's like, no, nothing. She's like, oh, no, we got to fix that. And mind you, I'm standing right there next to her, and she's like, okay, I'm going to make some phone calls. We're going to set something up, and you'll have something for you by the end of the week. And I'm like standing there, but like, I'm here too. I'm here. Hello. Hi. She didn't even acknowledge me or look at me. Mind you, this is our professor. We have the same class with her. No acknowledgement.
Oh, so you didn't even get the good luck.
I didn't get nothing.
It was just
like I might as well have been a block of wood or a tree just standing there.
Yeah. So again, I think it's the idea of aspiration in the values that we believe in this country, like egalitarianism, everyone has a chance, all that stuff are good ideas.
Yeah.
And we hopefully most of us want that. But then I acknowledge that in reality our country falls short in a lot of ways.
I mean, like I said, it's the classism also exists here. It's just not as overt as overseas. But I mean, I think it's probably just as strong, just not as overt. And I think, the common man here is a little bit more willful than people overseas, where they're more broken down in terms of their mindset to this. Remember in India where they wouldn't even sit next to us?
Yeah, that was super.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Again, from our American value system, like going and having the family that we visited was great hosts.
Awesome.
And they
most amazing people ever.
And they had household help, staff. And so the gentleman who was the chef prepared the meal for us, and it was just Aziz and I because the family was out of town. And so they prepared the meal, set the table, and we were all going to eat. And it was his time for dinner too.
No, it was the maid because the chef left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so it was her time for dinner, and I just remember she just squatted on the corner to eat her food on the floor, and we were like, no, please come and sit with us.
She refused.
And it was just not something that...
Refused and would not even consider it. Mind you, it's not like anything that the family imposed or anything, because the family is amazing. These are like the most kind-hearted, amazing, egalitarian people I've ever met in my life. So it wasn't anything imposed by them. It was just this lady self-imposed this mentality on herself that, no, there's a divide, and I cannot cross that divide.
Yeah. So I think we've talked about stuff we like about the U.S., stuff we don't like about the U.S., stuff we strive for in terms of our home. We got to come up with a word because I can't keep saying Honduras and Somalia. Like our home or our origin.
Origin.
Our
Which is also confusing.
country of origin.
Yeah. Origin is different too.
We got to come up with a whole vernacular. Like I'm still not even clear about what the phrase is for like our people.
Yeah.
Like children of immigrants, but we're like old. We're adults. We're not children, so it's kind of weird.
We're youthful in our hearts, Alex.
Yeah. Anyways, we got some vernacular to work on, but we talked about a good amount of stuff.
Yeah, it was a good episode. Therapy.
We love our country, and then we hope that it gets better too. I think that's probably
it's optimistic.
Yeah.
Well, one of the fundamental things I've learned living here and that I've taken to heart is that change is possible and things always get better with time. So I'm a firm believer of that. God bless America.
Well, good show. Let's call it a wrap.
Yeah, let's go.
I like that. Okay, so switch over a bit. I think you're out of front.
All right.
Yeah, this is like we're pretty close quarters. I'm used to having all this space by myself and not being around humans, and all of a sudden, I used to be a touchy-feely person, and that was very uncomfortable for me.